Hello my friends and welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. I was recently asked by one of my followers to show how to create a transparent flower. I've also seen that they are called X-ray flowers, but I'll go with transparent flower. So you can see here that I've penciled in a sketching of a magnolia, and then I used my kneadable eraser to roll over the paper and lighten those lines a little bit, because after all, the flower is supposed to be transparent. You don't want to see pencil lines, so make sure you lighten your lines as well. And a kneaded eraser, rolling it on the paper is less damaging to the paper. And I am using Fabriano 25% cotton watercolor paper. And I think that this is a decent watercolor paper for the beginner to practice on. The first painting that I did like this, I did on Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper. But because this is for the beginner, I wanted to use something that is affordable and show you that it can be achieved. So I'm using my Muñoz pan paints. They're 48 half pans, also great for the beginner. Nice, really quality set for the beginner. It's a student grade paint. Although it says professional, I would consider it student grade, but it's really a good set. And I've mixed a very, very light consistency of cold pink is the color that I'm using. You can see I've really watered it down. And I am wetting down the entire petal, making sure that I have the petal completely wet down with the light consistency of color. And then once I've achieved that, I am picking up a heavier consistency of the same color, and I am outlining that puddle that I have put down, or that petal that I have wet down. And then I'm taking my brush, cleaning it off, and dabbing it on my paper towel, and I go along the edge to try and soften those colors. Because I'm using a lesser quality watercolor paper, it dries very quickly because the paper does not really absorb the water that well as it does with Arches. And the water just sits on top, so it dries much quicker. So you have to work fast, or you can simply use the tip of your clean brush dabbed on your towel to blend those colors in softly. And now when you're creating each petal, you have to make sure that the one that you're working over is completely dry. So you don't see it here, but in between these petals, I'm using my blow dryer to dry the paper. But I paused and I did it. I didn't think you'd want to see that. So you can see here, again, I am wetting the entire petal, making sure that I go over the first area that I put the water down on, because as I reached the bottom of the petal, the top has already begun to dry. So go over it one last time before you start outlining with the heavier consistency. And you can see here how I'm getting those blooms there. And that happens when you lift the brush. The paint that is on the tip just deposits in that area. But that's really easy to clean up. All you have to do is clean off your brush, dab it on your paper towel, and use the clean brush to lift that color off or to smooth it out. You can also use that same technique to blend the outline. And you'll see me do that a few times. Now, ideally, if you can create this outline without lifting your brush, that would be great, but it's not always possible. So cleaning it off like this with a clean brush, as you see me doing here, is just a simple way to do it. So while you watch me finish these last few petals on this particular flower, I'll remind you that all the products used are listed in the description box along with links. If you don't see the list, click on Show More or the arrow pointing down and the list will expand. And as always, if you have any questions about any of the techniques or products that you see in this video, let me know in the comments and I will always get back to you. And please don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing. As I've told you 1,000 times, your interaction is so helpful to my channel, and it's a very nice way to show your support, and I really do appreciate it. All right, so here we're painting in the stamen, and I'm using the same exact technique as I did for the petals. I'm putting down the light consistency of color, and then I am outlining it with the heavier consistency, and then using the tip of my clean brush to blend it out. And I'll do the same for the petal and the leaf. Now, the second technique that I'm going to show you is a technique that I recently saw, and I have to be honest and say that I didn't think too much about it. And even as I was doing it, I wasn't thinking too much about it. I didn't like it. I didn't think that it was creating the effect of a transparent flower. But as I continued with it, I can see that it does work, and I really do like the way it looks. In fact, it may be my favorite technique. It's a much softer look, and you'll see in just a moment how I achieved it. And then I'm going to show you the one that I did on the Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I want you to tell me in the comments, of the three that I will show you, which one you like best. So at the end of the video, I'm going to show you all three. The first one will be the Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper. The one in the middle will be this technique, this particular painting right here. And that's on the Fabriano 25% cotton watercolor paper. And then the third one will be on the Fabriano 25% cotton watercolor paper using the different technique. All right, so there is the Arches watercolor paper, and you can see that you get much better blends because the paper stays wet longer. It absorbs the water rather than having it sit on the just floating on the top of the paper. All right, so here we are with the second technique. In this technique, I didn't even bother to draw it. I just used the brush to create the petals. I'm doing it freehand. And I added a little bit more paint to the puddle that I have on my palette there. And I've painted the petal, and once I have completed the petal, I am cleaning off my brush and using a damp brush to lift the color off the paper, or to lift the excess water off the paper. And you can see me doing it here. So I'm using a little bit heavier consistency of paint for this technique. I'm creating my petal, making sure that my edges are nice and clean. Then I'm cleaning off my brush, and I'm picking up the excess pigment and water out of the petal. And at first I thought, well, this doesn't really look like a transparent flower to me. It just looks like a soft flower, soft color. But as I continued to do it, and I layered my petals one over the other, and you can see the colors deepen where one petal lays over the other, I can see how this is considered a transparent flower, and I really began to like it more. I prejudged. So you can see how nice the colors deepen as the petals lay one over the other. And what I'm trying to do here is to pick up the excess pigment in the center of the flower without going too close to the edge. And again, I'm not showing it in the video, but I am drying the paper with my blow dryer as I create these petals. But I really did like the way this looked. And I tried to create the flowers to be very similar, even though I didn't draw this one out for you. This was a last-minute decision to try the second technique and to share it with you. So you can see it's a really soft look. And I'm doing the same with the stamen, adding the paint and then lifting it. And that was a little bit light because I didn't add any more color to that puddle that I had for the other flower. So I paused, I added a little bit more of the sap green and continued. And now for the stem, you really can't do much with this as far as lifting, so I just painted it in, cleaned off my brush, and then just went over it again and lifted a little bit. And to create the leaf, you can see how easy that was, just using a bigger brush. So, okay, we're almost at the end of the video, and at the end I'm going to show you the 3 paintings, and we'll call them 1, 2, and 3. Let me know which one you like best in the comments and which one you would like to give a try. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.